UFP, the United Federation of Podcasts.
Engage.
78 years have passed since the days of the original USS Enterprise. Now a new Galaxy starship has been designed.
Transporter Chief, beam our listeners aboard. Welcome to Galaxy Class, a Star Trek Next Generation podcast on the United Federation of Podcasts. I am Counselor Amy Nelson, and joined with me are Chief Recreational Officer Ria Papagiorgio and Head of Astrophysics Joe Keegan. Ria, how are you this week?
I am hanging in there. Things are kind of crazy on my end, but doing well. Beautiful weather. How have you been, Amy?
Good. We are experiencing monsoon season, so our humidity is up to 38%, which is unheard of. You walk outside and you feel the moisture. I mean, I know places have it much, much worse, but for Las Vegas, when we're usually in the 10 to 15%, 38 is sticky for us. And Joe, how are you doing?
Amy, Ria, I'm good. Humidity is kind of a foreign concept to me. They never mention it on the weather report, ever, because it's always just a bit damp, really.
It's always damp?
It's always, yeah, it could be the nicest summer day and it's like 200% humidity probably. But you would never know because you're just so accustomed to it. That's interesting.
Well, let's check the communication array to see if we have any comments from our listeners.
Logs accessed.
From Twitter, at Doug Wellen. I hope I said your name right. He was commenting on episode 0, and we had the picture of the first season, and he was commenting on our artwork and says, the brief time when poor old Marina Sirtis wasn't allowed to wear pants. Well, that is pretty funny, and yes, we have Marina in the scant the first few episodes, but I wouldn't call her old, Doug.
Or poor.
No, I think that's just a figure of speech, isn't it? It's not.
Yeah.
It's not that she's poor or old. It's like, poor old Amy Nelson. You're not poor or old.
And she probably was wearing pants, but she wasn't wearing trousers.
This is very true, I know, for our non-US speakers.
Like Marina, who's British.
And
Greek.
And Greek, yes, get that in there. Yeah.
Well, feedback from episode 1, our interview with Scott McDonald. Zach Moore says, "This was a fantastic interview. Scott is a real one, and his Star Trek knowledge and recall is impressive." Absolutely, Zach. He was just wonderful. And yeah, the stuff he remembered and the level of detail, it was wonderful having Scott McDonald on.
That was a good catch for us. Thank you, Joe.
Do you know what? I don't like to blow my own trumpet, as the saying goes. However, I'm quite proud of that interview. I was very nervous, and I know Scott is now my BFF, but I drank some wine that day when we were interviewing him just to calm my nerves. And thank you to Ria and Peter, they made it very easy to have that discussion. We have, from episode 2, the Divided We Fall comics, Christos Genaris said he is buying the comics and reading them thanks to our discussion. So thanks, Christos. Interestingly, Christos and Ria Papagiorgio have something in common. Ria, what is that
What would
thing?
that be, Joe?
Well, they are both Greek. Who knew?
Oh my gosh!
Yeah. It's crazy.
Well, I would have never known had you not pointed it out.
Yeah.
And I really enjoyed that episode too, because I'm not, I'd say I'm not a comic book reader. I don't read. Actually, I just started reading a few weeks ago. I've read like 4 chapters now in the last month. I'm so proud of myself. That's a good thing, listeners out there. But yeah, no, it was, I'm interested in reading the comics as well as my fellow countryman, Christos Genaris.
Oh, is that how did I say his name? You said his name much better than I did.
Yes.
It's like,
It's all good.
Christos Genaris, in my Scottish accent. Sorry, Christos, I love you. About comic books, I never grew up reading comic books, even though most people that I know did. It's maybe because I couldn't read and maybe still can't. But I have bought all the Ego Moss Star Trek graphic novels, the hardbound editions of all the Star Trek graphic comics, and the crossovers with the X-Men and the DC Universe and Marvel and Doctor Who and all that. And it's taken up 2 shelves in my bookcase, and I've still not read any. I spent like $1,000 on books, and they're lying there gathering dust. I will get round to it, listeners, I promise.
And we have Rob Vaughn from Twitter says, listening to Galaxy Class, so good to hear these guys again. Well, thank you, Rob, for following us over from Earl Grey, the other podcast, I guess as we are calling it. But so glad you found us.
On the other network.
Yes.
This is the captain. Senior officers will report to my ready room immediately.
Well, today we are going to start a new series here on Galaxy Class where we are going to look at a character profile, obviously, of the next generation. And today we are going to discuss the one and only Jean-Luc Picard. And I'd like to sort of keep this discussion focused on the next generation and sort of exclude what we learned from the new series Picard.
Oh, thank goodness. I was concerned that we're going to have to talk about Picard and dredge up that trauma of watching
now
those
I have
episodes.
to change all my picks.
So I just want your first initial reaction. When someone says the name Jean-Luc Picard, what do you think of, Rhea?
I think of a man of class. I think of a refined gentleman.
Awesome. Joe, Jean-Luc Picard, what comes to mind?
So you know this story about me watching TNG in my teenage years, during my formative years, and the impact that had on me to this date. And I think if I was to choose one word for Jean-Luc Picard, would be gravitas. There's something about him, he's just so grounded, he's so captivating. He's such a good father figure without being a father to anyone. I know I was going to try and stick to one word, but yeah, gravitas would be it. What about you, Amy?
Whenever I hear his name, the first word that pops in is diplomat. He's always like finding the best solution. And I love that about him. Like, it can be any circumstance that we've seen. 7 seasons and 4 movies, and he's just finding the best solution to any scenario. And he's not willing to settle for less. Like, he wants the best, and he's going to use his knowledge and information to accomplish that goal. Now, listeners, I didn't want this to be just a rundown of Jean-Luc Picard, because probably you guys could tell us a few things about him. So we're going to get more of our impressions, but I did want to have each of us tell an obscure fact that maybe our listeners don't already know about Picard. So, Rhea, what's something that you found in your research about Picard?
Well, I don't know how obscure this is, but I like it because, well, I can relate to Picard in a lot of ways, aside from the classy part and the bald part. But I can relate to this fact about him, and it's something that it didn't come up when any of us gave our first impressions. And that was just, he was an athlete growing up. He excelled in sports. He won the Starfleet Academy Marathon as a freshman, becoming the first freshman to win that race. And he was also a wrestler at Starfleet Academy. Early on in the series, of course, it was a lot of talking, and it wasn't really until, I don't know, was it Starship Mine? Kind of his first chance to kick some butt. In his younger days, in addition to being an excellent student and a cocky, I don't know, little punk, I guess, which I can also relate to. He was also a star athlete.
That is awesome. I did not know that about his freshman year winning the marathon. That's information I did not know.
But I can't believe you didn't know that. Thingy, best of both worlds. The Admiral guy comes on board after Picard's been assimilated and says, I knew he was going somewhere when I saw that freshman run over the hill in the marathon. Remember, I don't know the line exactly, but he was so impressed by him when this freshman just beat everybody during the marathon.
I have forgotten that.
Well,
wow.
There you go.
Well, leave it to our recreational officer to point out the sport and athleticism of Picard. Thank you.
That's right. You're very welcome. He probably has some Greek blood in him.
Probably. All right, Joe.
So before he was this star athlete, he wasn't very well as a child. As another fact, he was born with Scharf syndrome, which luckily for him, Federation medicine could quickly cure. But I think Scharf syndrome is that hypersensitivity to sound that we heard about in Nemesis.
Yeah, unfortunately, Shinzon did not have access to Federation medicine and therefore had to live with that.
Exactly, so.
And wasn't as a result of that, Picard was able to detect if the warp drive was off by 3 microns or something like that?
Yes.
I think Rhea maybe did something very bad there.
Rhea?
Rhea, you have misspoken.
That obviously goes into my obscure fact.
Oopsie doodles. So after that smooth segue, Amy, what's your obscure fact?
Rhea, see when I said about stealing Amy's notes so we could preempt her, it was a joke.
Right.
And you know what? I scanned through and saw your note and responded to it, and that's all I read. Going back to Rhea doesn't read.
Oh, well, my obscure fact when I was looking up and researching Picard, we all know that Riker was chosen and Picard had never even met him. He had just read some files, was looking for a first officer, and was really impressed that Riker, thought for himself, his independence, and didn't just blindly follow orders. And so that's how he chose Riker. However, Picard chose 2 other bridge members, and he had only met them once, a very brief encounter. So can we guess who they are?
One of them's Geordi, right?
I have no clue about either of them.
Yes. So, yes, Geordi is one of them. Geordi piloted a shuttle for Picard during an inspection tour. And Picard made this off comment that, I don't think that the engines are running right. And LaForge stayed up all night refitting the engine. And Picard was very impressed by his duty and wanting the engines to run that he brought him aboard as his bridge crew. And it was mentioned in Insurrection that as an ensign, Picard could hear and detect a 3-micron misalignment in the ship's torque sensors. So,
of course.
Yes, his hearing. The second person was Tasha Yar. And he witnessed her risking her life to save a colonist in the Chameleon minefield, which was mentioned in the episode Legacy. And what I like about that is knowing that, Picard was that impressed with Tasha and understood her desire to, help just a random colonist, And it sort of gives me more insight to, like in All Good Things, when Picard going back in the past, and he's, he's being introduced to his new crew. And then he gives this red alert because he thinks Q is involved. And like everyone's just standing there. And then it's Tasha who jumps in. It's like, you heard the man, get moving and, get to your stations. And I like that sort of ties in with her action and just wanting to serve and that's inherent in her because she didn't really know Picard that well. So that is a testament to her ability and duty. So I like that.
And a testament to Picard's ability to spot those kind of qualities in people. And could you say he did a similar thing with Sito Jaxa, where he's the one that brought her to the Enterprise after, she was involved in the Starfleet scandal, because he saw something in her?
That's a good point.
Yeah.
So does being great yourself allow you to identify greatness in others?
If you're not so full of yourself that you can't see beyond yourself.
Ah, interesting.
But I would say that's a wonderful quality that Captain Picard has.
Identify the strengths in others, yeah.
And to serve as a mentor and help people along the way.
Yeah, that's a really good point. All right, so I'm interested to know, what would you say is his crowning achievement? And I'm going to leave that open-ended. I was talking to someone about it, and they were like, well, is this his crowning achievement personally or in his career? And I said, I'm just going to leave it open to you guys. What would you say his crowning achievement is?
Well, learning to play the flute, duh.
Oh, come on, it's a penny whistle. You blow in it and it makes a noise. It's easy. It's weird because I always think when we watch any kind of show like this, I like to think of it as the events of the show have already happened and we are watchers in the future, treating it as a historical document. I think maybe when we watch shows like this, we're seeing them as observers in the future, and they've identified these events in the past to show us. Because if you're watching TNG as somebody in the past, then you might think, how can all those events just happen to one little ship? Now, how can Picard go what he goes through 7 seasons and 4 movies and still be okay as a human? But it's just because that happened to them. That was just one little special ship and they happened to survive it, so they documented those events for us in the future. I know it's a weird way of thinking about it, but it makes me understand all the weird, impossible things that happen.
I love that perspective, and that is so cool because you're right. And as you look at each week, we get these new episodes and it's like, yeah, how can this be happening? But it's like, you sort of have to think, well, the other missions were really boring. So why would they, report on that? So exactly. I love that.
That's just my way of kind of the headcanon, sorting it and making it believable, because most of it is sci-fi, it's fantasy. Most of it's really far-fetched and unbelievable. But to answer the question, his crowning achievement is a difficult one because there are so many moments throughout his run that we see him do amazing things. And I think the thing that jumps out to me is his speech to Admiral Satie during the Drumhead. And he doesn't pull any punches, but it's insightful. It's almost like a surgeon using a scalpel. He knows exactly what he's saying, and it's measured, and he's got that gravitas thing that I was speaking about, and he wasn't standing for what was going on in the ship any longer, and he just went for it. But it wasn't angry, it wasn't malevolent or malicious. He just kind of the nail on the head, and that's Captain Picard to a T. That's what he does. He sees the path. He knows he's at A, he wants to get to B, but he has to go through the rest of the letters of the alphabet, and he does it seamlessly. I love that about him. So Drumhead, that speech.
I kind of feel like mine is a cop-out because I couldn't think of a single moment, but that's a good one. But I just went with his legacy. And again, trying to keep this to TNG and not to going into the Picard series. But Captain Jean-Luc Picard was known throughout the Alpha and Beta quadrants as, kind of like what we said earlier, a diplomat, a man of gravitas, a man of integrity. I mean, he was respected by the Klingon High Council. He was respected by, the Vulcans. But I mean, there wasn't a species out there that didn't respect him, even the Q. So that's kind of what I think. Just moments like his speech in the Drumhead, Measure of a Man. The specific things that he did, time and time and time again, that established his legacy as a commander of integrity. Plus the fact, as we were just talking about, that he would take people under his wing and mentor them, and if he saw, potential in someone, would help them develop that. So. My dad's always talking about, Maria, what is your legacy? What is your legacy? Implying that I'm nothing. And, how, I guess Picard is definitely a role model in that regard.
So this was the last question that I sort of answered, because I had to think like how I was going to answer, what I would focus on. And I did sort of decide just to think about like what, I guess, combining both of your answers, like looking at the legacy, what's going to have the most impact in the long run. And so I came up with the Borg, but sort of breaking it down into two parts, where in Best of Both Worlds, we never knew. We were always told that resistance is futile. And in Best of Both Worlds, we find out that it's not, because Picard is the first one to resist. And I absolutely love that in his character of never giving up, never surrender. Oh, that's from Galaxy Quest.
By Grabthar's hammer, yes. By the sons of Warvan, I shall avenge thee.
Yes.
Love that.
But then also, like, how much of an achievement it was for the destruction of the Borg going back to First Contact, and, how the Borg went back to Earth and Montana, and they were able to destroy that, and like what that had, implications for all of Earth, I think is probably, I would define as a crowning achievement. Like, we are here because of the involvement of Picard and the Borg. So that's where I was going with that. I did mention, I was also thinking, Rhea, as you mentioned, like Picard's total love of different cultures, and specifically the Klingons, where he serves as like two major Klingon cultural officers, I guess you would say, because he was Worf's Chadich, and he was also arbiter of succession for Gowron, and like how that impacted the Klingon Empire, and stuff going into Deep Space Nine, and just that monumental impact that he had there.
I think maybe another, I know I'm going to be a bit maybe frivolous here, but another crowning achievement might be the fact that he survived everything that he went through. Like being stabbed, as we see in the events of Tapestry, surviving his assimilation by the Borg, who was responsible for killing, something like 40,000 people on 39 starships or something like that. He had his, the memories, entire life's worth of memories implanted in the inner light. He was tormented and pestered by Q on numerous occasions. Do you know, it kind of goes on and on and on. He was court-martialed after the Stargazer disaster.
He took on like the memories and pain of Sarek,
Exactly. I mean, imagine, I'm just thinking like any one of those, if that was happening to any one of us, do you know what I mean? I'd be off work for years with the trauma of having to deal with it. But Picard being Picard, he just got back to work and just did what he had to do.
I mean, I'd see 5 lights right away.
Yep, sure. 5 lights.
5, 6, however many you want, dude. You got it.
I'll take my own clothes off. That's fine. 5 lights. Whatever. Sure.
Yeah. So I would like for you to identify a familiar relationship and how you think it's shaped his life. Rhea?
Well, I would say his father. And again, I can identify a lot with Picard here, also as the wayward daughter that did not go into the father's wine business. But beyond that, the father had very strict expectations of what Robert and Jean-Luc were supposed to do and supposed to be. And again, I'm not saying that my father's a goofball. He's a total goofball, but definitely in many cultures, Greek being one of them, the parents determine what the children are supposed to do. Not so much in American culture at all, but I know a lot of immigrant families here, a lot of my friends who are Indian, and their parents have decided that they will be doctors, therefore they will be doctors. And I think it generalizes across different cultures, but when it's so kind of domineering, and Picard pushed back against that, pushed back against his father, and as a result, that he didn't have a good relationship with his father or with his brother, who kind of felt the burden of having to take on the family wine business and having to live that, strictly defined life, while his little brother Jean-Luc was out, zooming around the stars. But also, and again, kind of drawing from personal experience here, if you have a parent that's not an awesome parent, and I'm not talking about my dad. I don't want this to sound like I'm bad-mouthing my dad, because he's awesome.
Is he a listener?
But no, he's not listening. But he's actually working at his wine business right now because none of his daughters took it over for him. But anyway, if you have a parent that's maybe not an ideal parent, it makes you a whole lot less interested in ever having children. And I think, as we discovered at one point in time, all three of us are firstborn without children of our own, and don't want them personally. Don't ever want them. Don't regret not having them. Every day of my life, I'm grateful to God that I never had children. So I think, I guess at some level, I've always kind of tied that to Picard's relationship with his father. And plus he was focused on his career, and would he have been able to survive all the crazy things that he went through if he had, children and a spouse to worry about? But yeah, I think that relationship had a lifelong impact on Picard.
That's really interesting that he chose his father, because I thought that initially, but then I thought, no, it has to be the opposite of that. And then I thought, what shaped Picard, the Picard that we see in TNG, those 7 seasons and the 4 movies? I was like, is there any one familial relationship that shapes him? Because you see him almost as a solitary character that doesn't have or make family relationships very easily. So has he just kind of fended for himself? He had this idea, he stared at the stars when he was young in Le Bar, France, and didn't want to go into the wine business. So you can maybe argue that his father didn't shape what he wanted to do with his life, and then ultimately left and joined Starfleet and just made his own way in the universe. But then I was thinking, is there one relationship that we see him have that kind of shapes who he is to a certain extent? And I kind of keep on coming back to Data, being a father figure to Data and helping Data find his way to becoming more human. I know it's not a traditional familial relationship, but I think it maybe has a bit of an impact.
I mean, they really were family on the Enterprise.
Do you know what? The whole bridge crew, all of them, because we're so accustomed to seeing them together, and it makes us feel comfortable, because when it came out, we were all watching it as teenagers, weren't we? Apart from if you weren't and you're listening to this. So yeah, it makes us feel comfortable, and it makes us feel more comfortable that they are family. So, what about you, Amy? Oh, sorry, Rhea.
Oh, and the actors are family to this day.
Yeah.
I think it's super cool.
It is. Yeah. Rhea, I really like that you chose his father, because I was afraid that someone would choose Robert. And I've never really I guess, appreciated his relationship with Robert, because I think, as you said so eloquently, like his father, it's not that he's following in his father's footstep, but he felt that pressure and went away from it. And like that definitely shaped his life. And so I can totally see your point with that. Going back to what you were saying about his legacy, I feel like Rene, his nephew, really helped shape his life, because I think when we see in Generations and the whole nexus, and with Rene dying in the fire with Robert, he feels this loss of this legacy. Like there's no more Picards going on. You know, he didn't have kids. And I think that it just sort of reinforced like time is finite and we need to live everything for now, because what is going to be our legacy of me accomplishing all these missions? No, not really. Like what's going to be left behind? And now that Rene is gone, I think it sort of puts into perspective what is truly important. And like you said, creating that legacy, like with the Klingon culture and, you know, his importance there, and what the Federation is, you know, going to continue because of his policies and friendships and diplomacy that he's created with, you know, countless civilizations. So I'm going with Rene.
That's interesting, because we only ever meet Rene once, but it's kind of an impactful relationship because we see Picard's reaction to what happens to him in Generations, which is a heartbreaking scene. It's the lighting, it's just how he breaks down with Troy. Oh, that's an interesting choice.
So I do find it interesting that no one brought up Robert. I mean, and we've seen him on screen multiple times, at least twice.
But did he shape his life, though?
Yeah.
They were just two very different people. And I think maybe Jean-Luc shaped Robert's life, or maybe because of the resentment that was there. Jean-Luc went off to kind of zoom around the stars, and Robert was left to look after the family legacy.
I know I would feel that way if I had stayed to look after the family legacy rather than zooming off around the
But it's weird
world,
because Robert never had any, as far as we know, inclination to go and zoom around the stars or join Starfleet. He wasn't that. He didn't like technology. There's a discussion they have in, Family? Season 4, Episode 1, where, what's Robert's wife's name? Marie?
Marie, I think.
I think so. Around the dinner table, it's like, oh, you're talking about Picard, your infernal technology, it's just spoiling traditions about making food and all sorts, and replicated food is disgusting, that kind of thing. I kind of lost the train of thought. What was I getting? You know the point I was trying to get to?
That Robert didn't seem interested in going to the stars
Exactly.
in the first place.
Thank you, Rhea.
But see, I see it as, again, you've got the same father putting the pressure on, having these rigid expectations for his two sons, and one reacts one way and one reacts the other. And Robert, I always saw it as he resigned himself at an early age to the fact that this is what he was going to have to do, and as a result became even more rigid, where, you know, I'm not going to use technology and he's got a point about the replicated food. I can't argue with him there, but not that I've ever had replicated food, but home cooked is better. So I think the father's impact on both of them, and then when you've got that dynamic with just the two sons, it's, I think, pretty natural for them to both go polar opposites of each other, you know, whereas if there were a third child, maybe that one would be more middle ground. And I like your pick of Rene too, Amy. As an aunt myself,
Yes.
You know, I have a niece and a nephew, and it just like brings this whole dimension of meaning into my life. It also makes me grateful that I never had kids. But yeah.
That's the good thing. I think we're all in the same position. We're not parents, but we're aunts and uncles. My nephew Manus, he just started school. He's 5 years old. And him and my little niece Amber, they're just all the cutest little tiny people. Just they're very chatty. They're at that age where they just like to talk. And I like that. But also, similarly, I like to kind of hand them back. Which, I mean,
Yes.
Okay, I'm away. Bye.
Yeah, I have 14 nieces and nephews spanning the ages of 33 down to age 4. And so I've been an aunt for many years. And yeah, I'm like you, just grateful to not have children. And I get to love on my nieces and nephews. And then they go back to, and I get to be the fun, cool, aunt who, when comes into town, I take them out and visit with them and chit chat. And, it's a different relationship than you have with your parents. And I absolutely love it. And yeah, it does give you the sense of legacy. Like, yes, my family's doing fine. Just because it's not coming from my loins, my family is doing just fine.
Yes, and I have such great aunts, and my niece is 3 years old, a little over 3 years old, and like when she was born, and I began to appreciate how awesome my aunts are, and so I need to carry on that legacy. But she's so cool too, because she likes Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and fire trucks, and she's always wearing a fire truck hat and wearing her superhero cape, and she's not some frilly, useless little thing. She's active and energetic and funny. She's so funny. And then my little nephew just turned 8 months. He started crawling at 7 months. Is that normal? The kid is ginormous.
Who knows?
He's, standing, he's walking assisted at 8 months old. If you hold his, and I haven't seen him since he was a month old, thanks to COVID. So, yes, aunthood awesome.
The downside to not having kids is that we can naturally give over our love of Star Trek. It has to be kind of sneaky and forced. Like, so my brother and sister have watched Star Trek, but they're not fans. They know who like Captain Janeway is and who kind of Geordi LaForge is. They know these names because I spent my childhood talking about it. So you have to work a bit harder, and that's why I'm quite excited about Prodigy, the Nickelodeon series, because that's my gateway drug that I can introduce to make them kind of watch Star Trek.
Yeah, I'm thankful. My one brother with the 4 kids, he's way big into Star Trek. And so he's indoctrinating them early. And so I don't have to worry about those 4. But the other 10, the older ones, they just sort of, oh, that's what Aunt Amy does, Star Trek, da-da-da. But, I'm trying to work into my vocabulary and explain some concepts to them every time I visit. So, yeah, you have to be sneaky.
It's like we're drug dealers. It's like, slip it in there. Wow. Amy, can I just say that I'm enjoying the way this conversation's going. I like all these questions and not just having a list of facts about Jean-Luc Picard's career. It's forcing us to think about it in different ways.
Yeah. I mean, there have been so many, I'm sure, podcasts out there who have described Picard and, done a character profile. So putting our own little spin and twist on it.
I like it. It's awesome. Fresh.
Thank you for
and not
saying
boring.
So.
Thank you.
So do you think that Picard has any regrets? If so, what are they? And if not, why not?
Has to be family, doesn't it? That's the one that jumps out at me right away. Has to be the fact that he never got married, never had children. And that's what we see him experience in the Nexus when he travels back in time to like the 1850s to live in that Victorian mansion with all the frilly outfits that everybody wears.
With the fake Beverly, yeah.
So I think family's the obvious one to choose. He chooses his work in Starfleet, and that just becomes his life. I think there's probably other things if you look at it from a different angle. Would you guys think? I'm interested.
Oh, go ahead.
No, I'm interested to hear what you guys think.
answered the same way, because I feel like when I think about regrets, or I think when most people think about regrets, it's usually something that they have not done versus regretting something that they have done.
Yep.
And so that's why it's important to live your life and live with no regrets. And that usually smart people, if you do something stupid, you learn from it. And that experience, helps shapes who you are. Like, I very foolishly at the very young age of 20 got married and then quickly divorced, but I don't regret it because it shaped who I am today. It shaped all of my relationships that I've had and, how I view relationships. So I don't regret it. It was a mistake, but I don't regret it. And so, yeah, Joe, I agree with you. I believe that Picard's only regret is not having children to, as we've been talking about this whole time, continue Picard's legacy.
See, now I first of all, I love this question. And I also, at the very young age of 38, foolishly got married, but don't regret it at all, even though I can't get unmarried. But I love this question, and I have a totally different answer.
Awesome.
I don't think he has any regrets. I think that he has had some regrets. I think he has a lot of what ifs. But the reasons I don't think he has any regrets, well, one thing, I think he actually regretted something that he had done, and that was the fight with the Nausicaan and the artificial heart. And in the episode Tapestry, which I just love, when he had a chance to undo something that he'd regretted, he saw the impact that, that foolish action, how much he learned from that and the impact that that had on his life. So I think that regret turned into, like you said, Amy, kind of an appreciation of what you learned from doing stupid things. When it comes to having children, I really think for him it's more of a what if. Because, I'm sure all three of us, I know I've done that, well, what if I had children? What if, this, that, whatever. And then I know for me, I'm like, you think about it, you're like, oh yeah, then I'll have someone to, pay for the old folks' home when I get old and blah, blah, blah. But when you get down, when you really think about the nitty gritty of it, well, then I would have had to have given up this and this and this and this and this. And, I wouldn't be able to, stretch out in bed and watch Star Trek every night in peace and quiet and sleep in the morning, So I think with the family, for him, it was a what if. Now, in Generations, it's crazy because I hear people blast all the time his experience in the Nexus. Well, at the time that Picard was in the Nexus, he had just lost his brother and his nephew. Losing the Picard family, the Picard family line. The line is drawn here. Ends with him, and so that was fresh on his mind. So I think the whole Victorian Christmas fantasy was kind of a what if for him. And maybe cathartic, maybe a chance for him to kind of, live that out, kind of live that what if, get a taste of it. But I think in the end, he realizes everything he would have had to give up to have that what if life.
So the Nexus gave him what he needed at that time because of the trauma of Renee and Robert's deaths. I've never thought about it that way.
Me either, actually, Joe, until you put it like that.
Interesting. So, yeah, I like what you said there, Rhea, but he doesn't have any regrets. And you can kind of see that because he's such a strong character. And like he knows what he wants and he weighs up everything. He takes, like from the bridge crew, he'll take on board lots of advice from everybody given a problem. And he'll weigh it all up and he'll make a decision. And like in every episode we see it's the right decision because he's Picard. So, given that, does he not have any regrets because he's just so decisive? And he's made those decisions for a reason?
And I think it's a level of maturity where people who have so many regrets, it's because they feel they should be doing something else, or they should be someone else, or something should be different. Whereas if you accept yourself as you are, your life where you're at, you don't have to have regrets. I mean, we've all done stupid stuff that we maybe should regret. I don't know, but Amy said, when you learn from it and perhaps don't repeat the same mistakes over and over, you can let go of that regret. And I think that Picard has had regrets, but has let them go. And maybe he knows, looking back, that he didn't make the right decision on X, Y, or Z planet. But if you're always trying to do the best you can with the knowledge that you have, then you don't have to live with regret. And Picard, being such a man of integrity, has built this life where he does the right thing to the best of his ability, and he doesn't have to regret.
Yeah, when I was thinking about this question, and I was like, well, does he have regrets? So that's why I added the, if not, then why do you think that? Because I was almost I was on the fence and almost going to say, no, he doesn't. Because like you both said, like Picard weighs out his options. He is a man who has chosen his life, and he accepts those consequences of his choices. Like he accepts his actions. And I think when you do that, then you're living with conviction and you're not going to have regrets. You will recognize mistakes made, but because you've chosen everything and that you're in control of your life, you're not being swayed by others or peer pressure or what others think of you. Like you're not going to have regrets because you've taken that responsibility. And why would you take responsibility for doing something you'd regret, right? Yeah.
That's a great point too, is you take responsibility for the consequences of your action as opposed to playing the victim. And you've all seen those people that are the victim and everything happens to them and everything is something else's fault, and they're probably the ones that are so full of regrets. Right.
Yeah.
Amy, can I ask you a question? And I know it's kind of yeah, no, that's true. It's kind of not entirely related. I don't know how my brain has made this connection, but I'm going with it. See, when you're teaching, and I think it's talking about making mistakes and having regrets about something. It's not necessarily regrets, it's just about the apprehension of making a mistake. When you're teaching and you ask your students questions, and you've got maybe 20 kids in front of you that are aged like 15, 16, 17, 18, and there's like deathly silence. And it's a relatively easy question, but they're all too terrified to put their head above the parapet it's just fear of getting the answer wrong and appearing stupid in front of their peers. Is that something you experience? Because I know, going back to teaching this week, like kids just, it's like I'm a comedian without an audience. It's like, or the audience has died and they're just like faces staring at me from the darkness.
So I I definitely have experienced that, not with 20 kids, say 40 over here in America.
It's a practical subject here for me, so 20 maximum.
But no, yeah, I definitely experienced that, and I try to change the class culture. I mean, especially with math. Kids don't want to be wrong ever, and they don't know a lot about math. So when I do ask a question and I feel that it's, pretty much anyone should be able to answer, and I don't get a response, then that's when I call on students. And once I get that going, and even if they, and I will encourage them, just tell me what you're first thinking, or what's your first impression of what X should be, or, what do you think we should do first? I'll try and break it down to smaller bite-sized question and answer. But when someone does answer and it's, completely wrong or, off topic, I will try and encourage the kids, like, thank you for thinking about that. And I will try and get that positiveness of being brave to answer the question. And then that changes the culture. And so usually by, after the first quarter, after 9 weeks, kids are more open to just saying what they think, which I think leads to curiosity and gets more kids involved. So I try and do that.
Yeah.
How do you do that?
I think I'm kind of the same. So this week I think I'd had to relearn how to teach a lot because we haven't done it for so long during the lockdown. But I've got a higher class, and I don't know how higher physics translates to the kind of other education systems around the world. So I think it's a bit less than AP physics in the US system, possibly. So yeah, I'd ask them questions, and they'd just be like they'd all look away. There's no eye contact, because if you make eye contact with me, I'm more likely to ask you. I make the point of saying like a wrong answer is maybe better than a correct answer, because it allows us to discuss why it's wrong, and we can maybe kind of pick out the details of some common misconceptions in physics. But yeah, it's really hard work to try and kind of make the environment comfortable for them so that they're more likely to come forward with an answer. And you see them when they're outside class and they're really loud and they shout at each other, and then they come in and they become wee mice and you can't say a bit. I'm like, I heard you like 20 minutes ago out in the hallway and you were shouting your lungs out. Why can't you project? Because I'm old and I'm 10 metres away from you. Please project to the front of the class so I can hear you. So yeah, it's all those little steps that you take to try and bring out a correct answer. Did you know guys...
one thing, just real quick, one thing that I've done, sorry listeners, we're getting some teaching strategies going on. But one thing I've done is where's the mistake? And so have kids write, obviously no names, solve the equation or whatever. And then just real quick, like on the overhead and, put this and say, well, this one's right. This one's right. This one's wrong. Okay, great. I'm so glad we got a wrong answer. And celebrate and then go in and say now where is the mistake and why did this happen? And then we're going to learn from that and then go, this one's right. This one's right. Oh, why is this one wrong? And me not telling them why and then having them try and figure out what's wrong. I think also lends and creates a better environment where mistakes are good because we can learn from them.
Yeah,
and the thing is, it doesn't change for adults either. I'm a supervisor. I have a team of however many people, and they're just as terrified to make mistakes. And you have to go out of your way to create a culture where it's safe to make mistakes, even as adults. And in meetings, when people even know the answer, nobody wants to be the first person to speak up. And maybe it's because they're afraid of making a mistake. Maybe it's because the kid that knows the answer but doesn't want to be the know-it-all. But that's interesting how that doesn't change.
I think we may be not programmed, but I don't know. I don't want to come across all conspiracy theorist, but do they maybe not want us to be all confident and stand out there? And I don't know. I'm talking rubbish, I think.
No, well, I think it's like a peer pressure thing. If you're the one that's confident and stands out, and especially when you're in high school, you're the one that always knows the answer. The insecure kids are going to gang up on you and beat you down.
And there's a lot more insecure kids than confident kids in
and a lot
middle
more insecure
and high
adults.
School. Yeah.
Too.
That's true. All right, guys. I'd like to know, and this is just pure your opinion, what's your favorite moment or quote from Picard? Rhea?
Well, since we're not going into the Picard series, where I had a lot of favorite moments, I would have to go with Starship Mine. I just love him in that episode. I know it's called Die Hard in Space, but it's the chance for Captain Picard to let loose and run around and save the ship. And he even does the Vulcan nerve pinch, which I imagine he learned in his mind meld with Sarek. I just love that whole episode. It's so much fun.
Awesome. Joe, what about you?
Do you know what? I'm stuck. I know there's literally hundreds of good Picard speeches, but I have to come back to the one that I've mentioned already. And I know I mentioned it multiple times on the other podcast on the other network. But it's it's just, I'm making punchy fists. listeners, because that's the best way I can articulate how good this speech is for me. You know, there are some words I've known since I was a schoolboy. With the first link the chain is forged, the first speech censured, the first thought forbidden, the first freedom denied, changes all irrevocably. Those words were uttered by Judge Aaron Satie as wisdom and warning. The first time any man's freedom is trodden on, we're all damaged. And I feel that today. I'm like, whoa, it's kind of really relevant today in 2020 with what's going on like everywhere, without getting too political. Yes, it's a hammer and it's a scalpel at the same time, and I love it. And it's difficult to speak about because I don't know, it means something. I don't know who wrote that speech, like what writers are involved in that, but there's something about it, and it gets to the heart of what we're all thinking about at the moment and what they're talking about in the episode.
Joe,
I think it's timeless too.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Joe, you read my notes.
No, I didn't. I like Rhea. I read that first bit and then I put the wee bit of text in, let's steal Amy's notes. I didn't actually read all your notes. Honestly,
literally, that's what I have in my notes.
It's on page 2 or something. Yeah, I'm scrolling down. I'm sorry. I did steal it, but unknowingly stole it.
Yeah.
Apologies,
well, and you
Amy.
mentioned it at the top, and I was like, oh my gosh, Joe stole my
honestly
my favorite. I mean, but to me, and maybe it's because I have podcasts with you so much and that now it's in my brain is so important, but it is so important. And what I love about it is that he recognizes the slippery slope of how ideals can be used against humanity. Like we have these ideals and we want to live up to them and be better than who we are. But then also those same things can be used to chain us and deny our freedoms. You know, this ideal of being perfect or, you know, it just, like you said, a hammer and a scalpel. It's definitely was the very first thing that came to my mind as a favorite. I did also think of Measure of a Man, because I love that and the implications that that has, again, with looking at the ideal of, you know, we want to perfect and have multiple datas, but then what does that mean to his freedom and his choice? And so I think both of those really go hand in hand with, you know, recognizing how he can see what's going to happen if we go down this road, like his foresight into things like that. I think it's a great Picard moment and quality that he has. Now, when I wrote this, you know, I was like, okay, what's a favorite quote? The first thing that really popped into my mind is Justin Oser, because he always ended Earl Grey with Justin's favorite quote of Picard: all things are impossible until they're not. And so I will always remember that as a great Picard quote.
I think that's just a really good thing to think about in life in general. All things are impossible until they're not. Because, like, as a physicist and as a scientist, people say things all the time, or like because of what we know about physics and science just now, means things are impossible to us. But like science told us like a couple of hundred years ago, like flying in the sky wasn't possible. But just because we hadn't figured out how to do it. And the more we learn, the more we investigate, the more our minds are inquiring about the nature of the universe, then the more things are opened up to us.
Yeah, and I love how just matter of fact it is. It's impossible until it's not. Yep, matter of fact.
Yep, a couple of years ago.
All we got to do is invent a Heisenberg compensator and boom, transporter technology.
Well, spit those words out, Rhea. A Heisenberg constipator is some different piece of technology.
The ultimate cure for constipation. The Heisenberg
No, it's the Heisenberg constipator is the machine you go in if you've got diarrhea.
Yeah.
There you go.
Stop the process.
Sorry, listeners. Let's move on.
Edit.
Oh, listeners will not be hearing that.
Oh, come on, keep that in. That's hilarious. Those are
Maybe at the tail end.
Galaxy class golden nuggets.
Galaxy classless brown nuggets.
Oh no, Rhea! Edit that out. That's disgusting.
You had to say nuggets.
You should. Yeah, I know. I made it. It was intentional. Oh dear. So we're still on favourite quotes. Did we get your favourite quote, Rhea?
Mine was a favorite episode.
Yeah. Starship Mine.
Did we? Okay.
Were we paying attention to Rhea?
No,
she's here.
You weren't, Joe.
Okay.
Busted.
So sorry, I must have missed that. Edit that out. That seems rude, but I was paying attention.
No, that's going at the end as well.
Oh, okay. Is that our patrons special?
Yeah.
Coming soon, our Galaxy Class outtake episode.
Nice. Thank you very much.
Well, guys, after this discussion, want to know, how would you sum up Jean-Luc Picard? Rhea?
Well, okay, I forget who said this quote, but it's something along the lines of, your thoughts determine your words determine your actions determine your character, or something like that. I'm skipping a couple steps in the way. But I think Jean-Luc Picard is a man of character because from the smallest thoughts, he's driven. He knows what he wants to go. He's got a moral base. He knows what's right and what's wrong, and isn't afraid to violate the Prime Directive if needed. And so he's a man of character that's, made so many right decisions in his life and built on his wrong decisions that I'm not summing it up very succinctly. This is a sloppy math equation if it were the sum. But I guess I would sum Jean-Luc Picard up as a man of character.
That's a good point. Interestingly, to quote Lao Tzu, the ancient Chinese philosopher, he said, watch your thoughts, they become your words. Watch your words, they become your actions. Watch your actions, they become your habits. Watch your habits, they become your character. Watch your character, it becomes your destiny. Which is quite profound. I don't think that just warrants like a quick, fleeting thought. I think there's a lot to that. Thoughts become destiny from beginning to end. Good quote pick up there, Rhea. I like that. I honestly don't know. How do you sum up Jean-Luc Picard? How do you sum up Jean-Luc Picard? 179 episodes, 4 movies.
183, boom.
Whoa.
Summed up.
Oh, that math moment brought to you by Rhea. I totally missed that. And then I was like, oh my gosh, that's the sum. You're brilliant, Rhea.
Why is that so funny? It's not funny.
183. It's hilarious, Joe.
It's hilarious because I missed it.
I love math.
Hilarious because it's so mundane and our simple minds just find it funny, I think.
I guess it's an ant joke as opposed to a dad joke.
It's definitely a dad joke. Or an uncle joke, as we'll call it. How do you sum them up? I think there's all those little words that we use, isn't there? There's measured, there's gravitas, which I love because it sounds like gravity, which is like a physics thing. Is fair, he listens, he uses all his skills and qualities and knowledge to get to the heart of the problem and find the best solution. But to sum him up, that's like a thesis. That's like a PhD thesis if you go to like university, like big school. And you can't really sum him up. He's more than the sum of his parts and his mechanical heart.
So Jean-Luc Picard greater than 183?
plus heart emoji.
Plus heart, there you go.
Yeah. Amy, you'll maybe say it better than I did.
Well, when I think about Jean-Luc Picard, and I'm sure we'll do others where we compare him with other captains, but I mean, it's hard not to compare him. And why I feel that he's my favorite captain is because of everything that we've talked about and what you guys summed up so nicely, like, you know, his gravitas, his legacy, his decision, his owning his decisions, and his character and his thoughts and actions and destiny. Like, those are all things that I personally want and need to improve on. And he's being an example to me. And I love that the ideals that he has for every person or every species that he comes across, like this equality and fairness and, you know, the fine balance that he has with the rules and laws and regulations versus what is right and what do you do in your heart and what is best in that individual situation. Like, it's not just a blanket statement or a blanket action. He considers each personally and weighs the pros and cons and, you know, has that thought. And that's what I love about Picard, is that there he is. And that's why I feel that TNG is such an inspiration and that's what we need. We don't need to see the flaws. Yes, he has made mistakes, but they're not harped on, you know, like we were talking about with regrets. Like, he's recognized his mistakes and has grown from them. Like, that's something that I can do personally. And so I would sum up Picard as inspirational, something to admire, something to grow into, something to hope for.
Yeah, this conversation has made me want to be a better person. Be like Picard.
See, when you said a moment ago that he doesn't have any flaws that are harped on, I think that's something that TNG in that era, in the 80s, they were showing this idealistic future. It's probably a bit unattainable, but nowadays, if they were to make TNG now, the main characters would have fundamental character flaws, and that would go with them throughout the entire season and then hopefully get resolved by the end of it. But I think that's what we see in Picard. He's somebody to look up to, something to aspire to. And I know I mentioned when I attempted to sum him up, all those kind of buzzwords that you use to describe him. But I think, Amy, you mentioned it when you said he's got things that you don't have. He's like completely opposite to me, and I like that. Because you know me, if you've listened to me, you know, I always go for the funny comment or try and find the humour in things. And you might think I'm a bit frivolous. I think I'm a bit frivolous as well. I always like to be working on something new. Like, if something bores me, I'll stop doing it and move on to the next thing. So I might appear a little bit flighty and like an insect or a bee flying from flower to flower. I know, you know what I'm getting at. But he's not that way. He's very structured and almost regimented, and he knows what he is and he knows what he wants to do. And I'm
very
not that
disciplined.
way. Disciplined is the word, yeah.
Yeah, I'm very much like you, Joe, in the flightiness and always trying to find the humor in things, sometimes to my detriment. But yeah, it would be, I know personally I should probably work on developing some of that Picard discipline so I don't turn into you, Joe.
True, but that would fundamentally change who we are as people, wouldn't it? We wouldn't be true to ourselves because we were trying to be somebody else. Interesting.
A little bit of discipline never hurts.
Finding the funny in things. I always, do you know, Amy, you know it most. I make fun of you, but it's through love. Do you know what I mean? It's like you're my really, really, really old big sister. Kind of thing, isn't it?
Stop.
I know. I'm just joking. And we were in school the other day. We were on a break, and there was a one of my colleagues had been off on maternity leave, and she's gone down to 2 days a week, so she works a Monday and a Friday. And she came in, she was having a bit of a rant about something that was going on in school, and it was fine. She was dealing with it, but it was very loud. Do you know what I mean? It was taking everybody's focus, but it happened to coincide with the day, I think it was Thursday or Friday this week, where there was a tornado warning issued for the west coast of Scotland and northern England. And if you know anything about the weather in Scotland and England, you know that tornadoes don't happen. We're not Kansas. I mean, yes, we get a lot of wet weather, we get some sun, and it's very windy, but tornadoes are just not a thing that ever happens. Anyway, she was leaving the room, and I turned around and said to everyone, "Oh, that was the tornado warning." Oh, I mean, it coincided,
yes,
and it was funny. So it's that kind of thing. Try and lighten the mood, try and make people smile and make people happy. And
well, you do that, both of you.
Did you say
well.
You said do-do.
You said do-do. We both said that at the same time.
That was just for you guys.
We're so childish.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, dear.
Incoming transmission.
Well, we'd love to hear your thoughts on today's show and hope you'll comment on our United Federation of Podcasts Facebook page or join the Federation Council Chambers. You're welcome to start conversations with us or add any general Star Trek info you want to share with the group.
If you'd like to send us an email, you can email the network at contact@ufp.earth, and we might read your email on the show.
Please hit the subscribe button on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts, and leave us a star rating and written review. That helps others to find the show. You can also follow the entire network's podcast with our master feed by searching United Federation of Podcasts. This way you won't miss any of our fine shows like All Good Things, Franchise Fatigue, Always Hold On to Arrow, General Quarters, Mickey's Marvels, Infinite Diversity, and Trek Pod. So Joe, what section of the ship can you be found while out there in the universe?
Do you know what? I'd love to be out there in the universe. Anywhere, really. To be just on a spaceship, just cruising to the next starbase. That'd be so cool. But do you know what? When I'm not doing that, you can find me on Earth in 2020, unfortunately. You can find me on the Federation Council Chambers. That's the United Federation of Podcasts listeners Facebook group. You can tweet me on the Twitter at JoeyJoe77UK. Thank you for highlighting that in our document, Rhea. You can email me, joepodcasts@gmail.com. And that's it. Okay. And Amy, where can people find you when you're sharpening your foil for fencing?
Well, when
I don't even know if you sharpen a foil. It's just I
don't know. Do you?
It's like a bendy stick, isn't it? So,
yes.
Death to the opposition.
Yes.
I'd use it to skewer some cheese cubes.
Cheese cubes with like a small pickled onion, like what do you guys call them?
Pearl onion.
Yeah, like a silver skin onion we call them, or like a cocktail onion.
Yes.
And
that's
a cube,
very good.
A cube of a pineapple chunk.
Oh wow!
And sometimes, like when we were young, it's disgusting now, like a cube of ham.
Oh, right.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Or salami.
Yeah, like ham out of tin.
All right, Joe,
though.
you're making me hungry.
It was tinned ham, though. It was like Spam.
Yeah.
It's like, no, nasty.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, where can people find you, Amy?
Well,
Anywhere.
I'm here on the network. I co-host All Good Things with my good friend Patrick Devlin, and we get to talk about all of Star Trek and do episode comparisons. It's been really fun. You can find me on Facebook on the Federation Chamber Camp. So, trying to not pull a Joe. You can find me on Facebook at the Federation Council Chambers, and you can find me right there on Twitter at Miss Amy Nelson. And Rhea, which gymnasium or holodeck can I meet you in for our next workout?
Well, you can come and join me here in my podcasting room / office because I have a closet gym going on here. Thank you, pandemic. Otherwise, the nearest holodeck sounds great. Or you can send me an email at contact@ufp.earth, or find me in the Federation Council Chambers, the United Federation of Podcasts Facebook page.
Priority 1 message from Starfleet coming in on secured channel.
If you would like to help us keep all our shows coming to you each week, you can become a patron of the network on Patreon. Visit patreon.com/UFPearth. That's patreon.com/UFPearth. Earth is EARTH. To get all the details. We have 4 different levels starting at just $1 per month, and would appreciate any support you can give us.
Oh, Ria, you're such a weirdo. I love you. We would like to recognise our...
I love you!
Oh, professional.
I love you!
That's a much better Scottish accent than Amy Nelson. Sorry, Amy.
I don't love you.
Or James Doohan.
See? That was perfect. Spot on. That's good. That's good, listeners.
Listeners, Ria scrunched up her face. Amy's Scottish accent. We would like to recognise our executive producers, Brandon Shimutala, Ken Tripp, Zach Moore, and Tony Robinson. We would also like to thank Zach Tripp for our opening and closing music, and Tony Robinson for our amazing artwork. Thank you.
Thank you for beaming aboard the Galaxy class, and until next time.
Just like Captain Picard, stay classy, Galaxy.
T, other podcast, hot.
Turn a disadvantage into an advantage.
Engage.
This has been a production of MTMR Media Works.